So yesterday on Instagram, I saw this one. So going from an L-sit position, going through to a bent arm planche. Now, I personally haven't trained that before, so I think I can do it, but I don't think I can do it off the floor. I think I need to raise these bars up because I don't have the flexibility, the strength in the hip flexors, the compression to get through without dragging the feet. So I might need to raise these up, but I'm going to show you how I break down the movement, and I'm going to train it today and see if I can get it as clean-ish as possible. So like most of the calisthenics skills, there's three components here we're working with. We have the L-sit position, so the start or the finish of the movement. We have the bent arm planche, which is the other end, again, the start or the finish. And then we have the transition between them. So let's first warm up all three of those. So that L-sit position is mainly about hamstring flexibility for me to get into a straight leg position. So I'm just making sure that my hamstrings are happy. And then I'm going to go into the L-sit. Now I know I can go into a straight body position. So I'm just going to go in at around 10 seconds. So just holding that position. If you don't have straight, you could just go into a tuck position, raise the hands up as needed. So 10 seconds there, make sure that's nice and happy. And then for the bent arm planche. Now to start with, you can use a lot of friction between your upper arm and your torso. We don't want to be in this position, so we don't want to rely on the elbows too much. So we're going to have the arms to the side, have them against the torso, and then hold that position. So first of all, in a tuck. Now straight away, the knees are starting to get in the way a little bit on these low P bars. So I'm going to swap over to these higher bars. Now what I am doing as well is I'm externally rotating. So instead of having them side by side parallel like that, I'm turning them out slightly. So exaggerated, they're going to look like that. So the back end comes in more than the front end. That's just to create a stronger position. So external rotation is a stronger position, and then arms into the side is easier again with that external rotation. We don't want the elbows flaring out. So in that position, and then I'm just going to go into a tuck position for 10 seconds. So this should be pretty comfortable. Trying to get my hip in line roughly with the shoulder. So 10-second hold there, and then come back out. And then if we look at the transition, now normally with the transition work, you'd normally start with the eccentric, so going from the higher position to the lower position, so doing the down movement. So if I was doing something like a shoulder stand position and I was transitioning through to the L-sit, which is similar to what we're doing today, that down movement is going to be much easier than trying to go from the L-sit through to the top movement because I'm going against gravity. Now with this movement, it's a little bit more side to side, so there's not really an easier position or an easier direction. But one thing to think about is you want to probably go from the harder movement to the easier movement to start with. That should be easier. So the bent arm planche for me is much harder than the L-sit. So I'm going to go downhill in terms of intensity first. So I'm going to go in that bent arm planche position, so there, and then I'm going to come through to the L-sit. So that's more swingy because I'm staying in a tuck position. Opening out to the harder bent arm planche positions is going to be definitely more challenging. And I want to start bringing in the limitation of the height. So I'm going to go back to those lower bars, but I'm going to raise them up slightly. Now for anything like this, the bumper plates work really well because you can incrementally go up and down, and there's different thicknesses of plates. And they're also super stable. You just obviously need to have enough of the different sizes that you need. So I'm going to set up exactly the same as we did on those yellow ones, but just much closer to the floor. And now I'm going to open up into more of an advanced bent arm planche position. So starting to take the legs out. So instead of in that tight tuck position, let's go for a straddle position. And then I'm going to come through to my L-sit, which is still pretty tough to get through without dragging the feet. So I'm going to go up even higher. That guy who was showing this on Instagram is so flexible. You should check him out. I'll link his thing down in the description. Okay, so I reckon this is a good height for me now. I'm going to try in the full position for the bent arm planche, go through to the L-sit. So just the eccentric. So going from the hardest position to the easiest position first. So bent arm planche first, and then through to the L-sit. Okay, so that's better clearance wise. Now I'm going to have a rest and have a go at going in the opposite direction. So L-sit through to the bent arm planche. Okay, so L-sit through the bent arm. Nice. Okay, final rest, have a go at repetitions next. Ooh, okay, that's pretty tough. So two things I need to work on is conditioning of the positions, conditioning of the full movement, so just get better at that to make it easier so I can do more repetitions. But the biggie for me is really trying to close that gap between the thighs and the torso. It's always been a struggle for me to really close that. You see it on my shoulder presses. My flexibility is pretty good, so I'm nicely deep enough in the forward fold positions and in the straddle pancake position, but the active movement to keep the two together is what I'm lacking in. I should do more hip flexor strength, maybe some toes to bar or other movements like that. Let me know your thoughts on this movement. Also, let me know if you have any requests, both for the YouTube channel for videos and also for my app. If you're using the app, any feedback and also requests for programs, videos or refinements would be awesome. I'll speak to you next time.